Hey everybody, can y'all hear me? It looks like the picture is highlighted, so I guess you can hear me. I know it's been a while since I've done any content. I took a break. I was on vacation, but I'm going to be making some changes to my channel. I did switch from AT&T to Spectrum, so now I have faster internet. So that means I can review videos because it's going to be high speed now. So yeah, there's going to be some changes coming to this channel. But I really want to talk about this prosecution of President Trump. I think it's so ridiculous. I mean, and I know people are going to attack me because if you're black, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to think that Republicans are the boogeyman, which I'm an anarchist, so I think all of them are the boogeyman. I didn't vote for Trump. I never did. The first time I voted for Jill Stein, and the second time I just didn't vote at all because I basically Trump didn't deliver on his promises during his first term. So I don't know why he thought he was going to get a second term and he was going to get another opportunity. I I mean, Trump made a lot of promises and some of them seem, they would be beneficial because he is oh ostensibly he was a nationalist. He was going to put America first and get away from these globalist policies, but he turned out to be just like everybody else. He didn't build the wall. He didn't do a lot of things. And then there was one particular bill that he signed off on, which I didn't like. It's supposed to be. I'm going off on a tangent because this has nothing to do with what I want to talk about. But there was this bill that was for sex trafficking that basically was going to hold websites criminally and personally liable for allowing sex trafficking on their websites. So this basically had a I don't know if it was an unintended effect, but it basically shut down a lot of gay websites. Particularly, Craigslist was a website where a lot of gay guys went to hook up, but they shut that down because they didn't want to be prosecuted because of this bill. And it was like, did Trump realize what the hell he was signing? I mean, this was something that was kind of pushed through over the night. Nobody really talked about it. It wasn't really even debated. They just thought, well, women were being trafficked on these websites, so they shut it down. But it really affected the gay community more than anybody else because that we meet on online. So I'm sorry that women were getting abused, but I don't think women should have been on there anyway. Like, of course, women can't do the same things that men do on when it comes to sex and all that. But anyway, so that was a disappointment. But basically, I just realized Trump was full of shit. He didn't deliver on the wall, and I don't know if I can blame him. Whatever. I'm not going to make excuses. He did. The buck stops with him. He was the president. I guess he assumed he was going to get another opportunity. Um, and I don't know how much I can say without getting in trouble on YouTube. I don't believe that Joe Biden got more votes than Obama. Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, dead people don't vote. So, um, okay, before I even get to that, let's just go back to the war in Iraq because the problem is that I'm not saying that Trump is innocent, right? What I'm saying is that other presidents have done far worse and they have gotten away with it. So let's start with the war in Iraq. So when I told you I was in the military, right? And so when I was in the military, I was completing my undergrad degree, right? I had done basically 30 credits because I got military, I got college credit for some of my military training, and then tested out. It's called CLEP. I tested out on English composition 1 and 2, um, algebra. I think part of biology, but I still had to do I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But basically, I completed like 30 credits just from military and testing out, and then I did another 60 while I was still in, and then I had to complete the last 30 while I was after I got out because I got out and then I was in the National Guard, and so I was a political science major. So what we did during that time, this was right in the heat of the war in Iraq. We debated the war in Iraq all day, every day. Everybody thought I was a know-it-all. I kept saying there were no weapons of mass destruction. I kept saying there was no connection between Saddam and Bin Laden. Saddam was a secularist. uh, Bin Laden was a jihadist. It made no sense because this is what the war protesters were saying, right? They kept saying there were no weapons of mass destruction. They had weapons inspectors in Iraq at the time. They could not find anything, and they were going to be used as human shields. They were like, "Well, we're not going to leave Iraq because you're not going to bomb American civilians, so we're going to stay here." Then eventually they caved in and they left, and then they started bombing Iraq. I mean, everyone told me that I was a know-it-all, but I'm like, everything that I said was right. Like, it didn't make any sense. Um, and I guess what's his name? Secretary Powell's the one who actually sold it to the UN. We debated all this stuff in detail. We discussed the UN resolution, all that stuff. Um, And I'm like, how people are acting like they were misled, but I mean, I was in my 20s, like I was a young whippersnapper. Like I was the people who I was going to school, actually I was like 19 to be honest, but um the people who I was going to college with were much older than I was, and they were acting all dumbfounded. I didn't have any political savvy, but to me it just didn't add up. And I would sit at home watching C-SPAN all the time, and I didn't make the connection. I just thought it didn't it was very. I don't know how all these older people who are more savvy than I was at the time were misled. Even an attorney who taught one of my classes who I ended up becoming friends with, he was misled. He was actually in Iraq. Um, and then, okay, so what ended up happening is I got out. Right before I got out, my unit got deployed to Kuwait. I didn't go with them. I got out right in time before the orders came down. But they all supported the war in Iraq until they went over there, and then they saw for themselves that this was bullshit. They were all just miserable. It was hot. They said it was dust blowing and sand and dust. It was giant rats, and they were just miserable. So anyway, I when I okay, so I got out. Then after I got out the army, I was in the National Guard, but I was in law school. So I wrote for the school newspaper, right? And then I wrote this because everyone was saying that there was no reason to impeach Bush. And I wrote this article in the school newspaper laying out because Dennis Kucinich laid out the articles of impeachment and explained what he did. Basically lying about the war in Iraq, the case for it. Let me pull up the. I was trying to find the summary of the articles in peace because it's like a 150-page document, and I know there was a summary because I used it in that article that I wrote, but I can't. It's not online anymore, so I'm just going to use the one from Wikipedia. Gosh, I need to remove this. Okay, there's another link. Let me 1 second, y'all. Okay, so here it is. Um, again, these articles of impeachment were brought by Congressman Dennis Kucinich, who at the time was running for president, or he ran for president later, but people thought he was too extreme, because nobody supported impeaching Bush. Dennis Kucinich was like the lone wolf who tried to bring him to justice, but everyone said, "Oh, he's a lame duck president. He's not going. His term is almost over." That basically the Democrats felt that if they impeached Bush, they were not going to be reelected. So they basically played it safe. But his justification for the war in Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, the connection between Saddam and Al Qaeda, which was a lie, the Tony Blair memo, um, war of aggression. They violated the UN resolution, right? And and this is something we learned in political science that basically I forget how many members there are in the UN, but like United States, France, and a few other countries, Britain, they had like there. It's not like all countries are equal. Like America has more say than a lot of other countries, and that's mainly because we are the ones who enforce the UN resolution. So America, but the UN voted against invading Iraq, and America did it anyway. Um, and then, of course, they tortured all those people. You know what? I don't know why people are acting like this happened so long ago. Like everyone forgot about all this stuff. They were waterboarding people, torturing. They had these illegal detention camps. All the stuff that went on. They overthrew Iran and uh, traced his body up and down the street and toppled that giant statue. I'm sure y'all remember. Some of y'all may be too young to remember it, but to me, this seemed like yesterday. Mainly because it affected me personally. I was in the military, so I would watch because basically this affected my life. I knew that there was a good chance that I could be deployed and I could be killed. People were getting blown up all day, every day. And let me show this other link, because I want y'all to see the body count because people are making it seem like this is no big deal. Oh, what Trump did? Trump is the worst president ever. Really? What did Trump do? So this says the total deaths in Iraq is 300,000. I mean that's an estimate because they can't. I mean some of these bodies have never been recovered. Some of them are just lost, but um, and civilian casualties, American deaths, and that's not even including all the people who were maimed, who came back disfigured, and um, all of that. Like this war destroyed people's lives. Not to mention the trillions of dollars that were spent in nation building, and everyone's just acting like this never happened. I mean, $300,000. I mean, 300,000 bodies that are dead, trillions of dollars spent. They misappropriated all of this money that was supposed to be used for tanks and all of that stuff that just completely went missing, unaccounted for. They never bought the tanks. They never bought the military equipment. Somebody absconded with that money. Um, And I know this seems like ancient history to y'all, but I remember this stuff like yesterday. Um, so the fallout from that was tremendous. And yet here we have Trump. Okay, so before I even get to Trump, let's talk about two other presidents. Clinton. Okay, so remember, George Bush did all that stuff, all those war crimes, Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, Rumsfeld. Remember all that shit, all the shit that they were doing. Not one of them got prosecuted. Not one of them were impeached. Nothing. Um, y'all remember George Jefferson, whatever his name, Bill Clinton. His name is William Clinton, and that's why I'm getting all tongue tied. But he was impeached because he had a deposition in this lawsuit where Paula Jones sued him, and he testified under oath that he never had an affair with her, and then it was proven that he did, and so basically the Republicans impeached him, and I wrote a paper about it in my master's program. Basically, the Republicans impeached him because the evangelical right were so outraged about it, and they knew they needed the evangelical vote. So, what they decided to do was for the Republicans had a majority both in the House and the Senate, but they decided to impeach him in the House, which is basically just a criminal investigation, or yeah, it's that's just the investigation to initiate it, and then the House decides whether I mean the Senate decides whether to convict. And so the Republicans already decided among themselves that they were going to impeach him just to bring about the investigation to appease the evangelicals. And then in the Senate, they were not going to convict him. They already knew they were going to do that. So this was a complete dog and pony show, just so they could maintain their evangelical base. They knew they weren't going to remove Clinton from office, but they needed to do something just to save face. So that was one thing. And I'm going to get into the articles of impeachment against Trump because he was impeached twice. Y'all know that I know I'm losing people because this stuff is boring. It is, but people need to remember these things. Um, it is a well-known fact that LBJ stole his election. He didn't steal a general election, but he stole the primary. Like he it's called the ballot 13 scandal. This is not some conspiracy theory. This is something that we discussed open and notoriously in my political science department. Like they were running these videos showing that LBJ stole his primary runoff. He did not win, and he shouldn't have been president. Everybody knows this stuff. Nothing ever happened to LBJ. Let me read this comment. They are above the laws everywhere in the realm. They are far too wealthy and important in the screen of the matrix to ever actually go to jail unless one of them genuinely goes against the narrative. Well, that's what I'm trying to say with Trump. Um, this is not about whatever he did. The only reason he's being prosecuted in the first place is because um they don't want him to run again, and they if he would just go away and shut up, they would drop those charges. But this is basically an attack on American people because whether they want him to run or not, there are people who actually support him, and he should have every right to run. And you're going to use the legal system as an instrument of oppression. This is why I'm an anarchist because I realize how they do this shit. I mean, I've run for office myself. I see the connection between the media and the government. How the media is basically it's called manufactured consent, and I'm going to get into that because not today, but I'm thinking about creating a second channel to get more into politics because I don't. Some of y'all get bored when I talk about this stuff, but it is what it is. There is an audience for it, so maybe I just need to try to get a different audience so that I can talk about the boring stuff that a lot of people don't want to hear. But where was I going? Okay, so the first time he was impeached. I'm sorry, Trump was impeached for obstructing the election or whatever, trying to interfere. And then the second time he was impeached for inciting an insurrection, which so basically because he contested the election, because he appealed it to the Supreme Court, because he said that he didn't think that he lost, which is his right to say. He was impeached for that. And then for inciting an insurrection, which he did not incite. He never told them to go storm the Capitol. What he said was they're going to storm the Capitol, and basically, he hopes that they get whatever outcome they want, or they end up uh, meritorious or whatever. He's I don't these. I'm not citing him verbatim, but basically wishing them well and whatever they were trying to do, not inciting them because they were going to do it anyway. They already decided that he did not lose the election. He didn't tell them that. Oh, he did give a speech saying it, but they had already reached their own conclusion. But aside from that, how is it a crime to have an insurrection against the government, right? John Locke said that if the government isn't serving the will of the people, you have the right to overthrow it. So if this is supposed to be a quote unquote democracy, which is really a republic, it's supposed to be based on the consent of the governed. So if it's not based on consent, this is why I'm a fucking anarchist. It's not based on consent. It's based on force. Because if it's based on consent, then you have the right to overthrow your government. But you don't. They're going to say that it's an insurrection, and now all these people are being prosecuted and thrown in cages. How is that democratic? How is that a free society when you don't even have a right to overthrow your own government, which they're supposed to be here to serve the will of the people? But of course they don't. This whole thing is a fucking dog and pony show. And when you realize that you really don't matter as a quote unquote citizen, you really have no choice but to become an anarchist. We're approaching the crop hitting the fan. Crap. Sorry, y'all. I need to read closer. We're approaching the crap hitting the fan collapse from what it looks like. The dollar is no longer reserve currency. Hyperinflation is beginning. At this rate, we probably don't have long left. Yeah, I'm already making some financial changes, or getting my life. That's the reason why I took 2 weeks off to get my life in order, because I need to make sure that I'm going to be financially stable. And I think that my job is pretty much recession proof, but I need to get my life in order. Yep, you're logically right. Anarchy is the only correct choice when the government is absolutely corrupt. And it's even more corrupt at the state level. Everyone wants to talk about the federal government, limit the federal government's. It's like, no, the state is even more corrupt than the federal government. And nobody is saying this. And I just don't get it. Okay, so, man, I should have taken notes because I'm just kind of winging it. But I did have a mental outline of where I wanted to go with this. Okay, so the two articles of impeachment or two impeachments against Trump. Yeah, first for well, they're saying that it was foreign interference with the like he colluded with Putin or whatever. Um, this that the first one was even more ridiculous than the second one. Then he incited an insurrection. Okay, so and I'm still losing people, so I guess I need to get to the point. Um, oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm being long-winded, but I did want to quickly go over the articles of impeachment against George Bush before I get into the charges being levied against Trump. Okay, so this quickly. Like I said, I couldn't find the summary of the article impeachment. It's like 150 pages long, but the only thing I could get is the link from Wikipedia. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly go through that. Okay, so there were 35 articles of impeachment. Again, these were brought by Congressman Dennis Kucinich, who ended up running for election. What was it called? House Resolution 1258. Um, oh, I did go through that. I did. Gosh, my mind is somewhere. We talked about all that already. Okay, so let's get into Trump. These charges against him, and it's 91 charges altogether. One federal prosecution and three state prosecute. It's so ridiculous. And I don't know what kind of lawyers he has, but they're doing a shitty job. They're doing a shitty job. His PR people, I don't know what they're asleep at the wheel. Okay, so here's the federal one. Um, One count for conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government, um, conspiracy against civil rights, and obstruction. This is so ridiculous. Like, and by the way, one of the articles of impeachment against George W. Bush was obstruction, and that never saw the light. What George W. Bush did was far worse than anything Trump ever did. Um, Basically, attempting to stop Congress from certifying Joe Biden's went. You know what? And I don't. I think I'm going to get doxxed at some point because somebody already has my information from my other channel, and I was trying to avoid that because I have a lot of shit, a lot of baggage politically. I have run for election, but let me just say this, and I'm not going to say which race it was. It was a high level state position. I was not a major. I wasn't a major candidate. I'm not going to say which party, but a third party candidate. Um, and then when they decided that somebody else had won, I filed a lawsuit to have that particular person disqualified. And this is the reason why he retaliated against me because I caused a lot of trouble. I don't know how one single black man who's basically broke, or I was definitely broke at the time, could cause so much trouble. But I found a little legal loophole that they didn't even see, and I caused a lot of trouble because okay. I'm not going to get into detail because then y'all could probably figure out who the hell I am. Um, but basically, on a state level, I challenged the election, and so they don't like that. Um, and I can imagine that it's far worse on a federal level, but that's his right. If he believes that he won, then he has every right to challenge the election, to file a lawsuit, to have those votes recounted. I mean, Al Gore did the same thing. The only thing is that when it was time for Bush to be inaugurated, Al Gore conceded and basically gave up. Um, the U.S. Supreme Court had already turned it back over to the states, and the states had already given the election over to Bush. So, I mean, I guess Al Gore could have continued fighting, or he could have at least not publicly recognized George W. Bush as the winner, which I don't believe that George W. Bush won that election either. But Al Gore gave up. And I guess Trump was supposed to do the same thing. And Trump is like, no, this is bullshit. I didn't lose. Um, and so now he's being prosecuted for that. That's ridiculous. Okay, so that's the federal. Those are the federal charges. 4 in federal court, 13 charges in Georgia. What is this? I don't like. I couldn't find a good one that really laid it out. This was the best one I could find without having to go through it and read it myself. I don't have time to do that. Um, Racketeering, which is basically a conspiracy among all of his his legal team and his staff and all those people. That's racketeering, which, gosh, there are better cases for racketeering. First of all, the practice of law is an entire racket in and of itself. It's a entire scam. All these judges, all these lawyers are making all this money. That's an entire racket. None of them have been prosecuted. Um, Soliciting or impersonating a public officer, basically because he asked them to find votes. To me, that's not even a scandal either, because he's not saying that, okay, make up some votes, don't like go stuff ballots. What he's saying is, I believe I won. You need to find those votes. You need to recount them. And so he's being charged for that. Related to forgery of false statements and documents, I believe that is related to this Stormy Daniels thing, because he used campaign funds to settle that lawsuit. But it wasn't him who paid it, it was his campaign. So when you file a campaign, I mean, when you have a campaign, your campaign is basically a private corporation. That's the whole purpose of incorporating, so that there's no personal liability. The corporation, by the way, y'all, and I know this is not interesting, this is boring. You can actually hold corporations criminally liable. I don't know how that works out, because you can't throw a corporation in jail, but you can prosecute a corporation criminally. Um, and why is that relevant? Because of this thing, his campaign could have been held criminally liable, which I have no idea what the hell that means. Is basic. Only thing you can do is get money from them. Because anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent for that, but that's something that I researched, that at least in my state, and I know in many other states, you can prosecute corporations. Okay, so that's Georgia 13, and then what is the others? New York. Okay, 13. Sorry, 32 counts willful retention of national defense information. 16 counts related to obstruction, withholding, or altering documents and false statements. This is a witch hunt. This is a complete witch hunt, y'all. I don't think he has good lawyers, but he can afford them, and his campaign is paying his legal fees. But I don't know. I think they go with the established attorneys, the ones with the big name, and it's like, I don't I would not. I mean, if I had the money to hire an attorney, I would not go with the because they don't take risks. They're more concerned with protecting their image. They don't want to buck the system too much. because at the end of the day, they're going to get their attorney fees from you, and then they still want to maintain their reputation. So they're not going to go too far. What I would probably do, I would want someone who was up and coming, someone who's trying to make a name for themselves, someone who's willing to take risks. But an established law firm, they're not going to really go out for their clients like that. They're just not. It's not worth it. They're going to get paid anyway. And I mean, as you can see, some of his former attorneys are throwing him under the bus. They don't care. These attorneys have no loyalty to anybody. They're just basically like vultures. They're trying to they're scavengers trying to pick off. Anyway, this again, I'm not defending Trump. I'm not saying that he's innocent. My only thing that is that other presidents have done far worse and they've gotten away with it. So I don't. George W. Bush certainly has done far worse. So this is politically motivated. The only reason that they're going after him is to get him to drop out the race, or at the very least to sway the public opinion on who they should vote for. And of course, most people are going to fall for it. They think that this is legitimate, and it's not. It's complete bullshit. Um, yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. But I did want to comment on it because this is going to be written in history, and I want to go on record to say that I did at least speak out on it. Back in the day, I probably would have written an article, um, but I don't write for any editorials anymore. By the way, I am an actual good writer. I know y'all read my shit on Facebook and it's grammatical. That's because I'm typing from my phone. But when I actually sit down and write, I'm a really good writer. I've gone viral many times. So um I'm actually better at writing than coming on YouTube running my mouth. But that's it. That's it. Unless somebody wants to come up, and if anybody wants to come up, you can add your 2 cents to it. But I wanted to lay it out because people are saying that Trump is the worst president ever because he emboldened races. It's like, because first of all, Mexican is not a race. It's a nationality. That's what I'm trying to say. People don't understand the difference between racism and nationalism. You can be a nationalist without being a racist, which I'm not saying Trump isn't both, but I'm a nationalist. I believe in putting American first. I believe in black nationalism. Um, I don't believe, I'm not a globalist. I'm not going to say that, oh well, I'm a global citizen. American or Mexicans have a right to migrate to strive for a better life at the expense of American people. We're going to give them jobs. We're going to put them on welfare, take care of them. No, I don't support any of that shit. And Trump spoke a good game when it came to that, but he didn't deliver on any of it. So um, ultimately, he doesn't have a chance in hell. Even aside from these charges, nobody's going to. His base has already turned against him because he failed to deliver. Even Ann Coulter is talking shit about him, so he's not going to be reelected. There's no way in hell. This this witch hunt is completely unnecessary. All right, y'all. So now I'm ranting. So I think I'm going to get out of here. I wanted to see if I didn't post a link, but I don't think anybody has anything to say about. Oh, let me read this one comment before I leave. Doesn't history show that when one wing of the political machine of a nation tries to put the opposing political candidate in jail, that the system has fallen? It's happened before lots of times. Well, in the law, they call it a constitutional crisis. This is the reason why courts. There's a doctrine called not basically not it's called a political question. So when it comes to political questions, courts they there has to be an issue or controversy in order for a court to have jurisdiction. But when it comes to political questions, they don't want to address it. Like, for example, when it comes to elections, they defer to whatever agency, whatever bureau or agency that gives oversight for that. They don't even want to get involved in it because they think it's going to make them look like they interfered with the election, which is why the U.S. Supreme Court did not interfere with the Bush v. Gore election. They decided to turn it over back to the state. Um, because yeah, they think that it would interfere with their credibility. Like it would deter from people believing in the judiciary as a political as a they claim that it's not a political process, but judges are just as political as anybody else. So anyway, yeah, you can't use the system to destroy itself. I tried to do that myself. I tried to file lawsuits thinking, oh, if I file these lawsuits, it's going to garner all this public attention. People are going to wake up and see it. No, no, that's not how it works. And I had to learn the hard way. I don't know why these attorneys get up here shucking and jiving, trying to make it seem like this legal system it's not real. It's a complete dog and pony show. They are political animal. The judges and the attorneys are political animals. Um, it's so disgusting when you actually understand it. But this is the reason why I think I need to create a second channel because I really want to deconstruct all that stuff. And unfortunately, with this audience, I think I'm going to. I mean, you can only get in. You have to get into an algorithm. And if I want to get into the political algorithm, I need to create another channel because I think I'm already within the blackosphere where I'm when in all of this, I don't know if you can change it to where I think I would have to go back and delete some of my older content in order to get into a different sphere on YouTube. But I think it would be easier for me to just create another channel. So um any other no other comments. All right, y'all. Oh, one last comment. No, two other comments. Well, the nation is doomed at this point, and if the collapse actually goes down, there isn't going to be organized sides of anything. It's going to be guerrilla warfare and chaos. Yep. He didn't deliver because they wouldn't allow it. You already know that. Um, there's things that he could have done though unilaterally. He could have issued executive orders. At the very least, he could have done things like he could have mandated English as an official language. He could have done that with an executive order. I don't think he even tried. Yeah, he didn't try. He basically his bark was large, more powerful than his bite. So yeah, he had a chance and he didn't fucking deliver on it. So basically all these presidents are puppets anyway. They work for corporations or whoever their donors are. So to think that Trump would be different from any other president is naive. So yeah, he couldn't deliver. They wouldn't allow him to deliver, but at the same time, he also didn't try. He didn't have to try anymore because he was no, but okay. One thing in politics that they tell you is that when you get elected as president, you're basically campaigning for your reelection. The moment you become elected, you're already, especially no big. Okay, you're constantly campaigning. That's why they called him a. That's why they called Clinton a lame duck. That's why they didn't impeach Clinton because he was a lame duck. He was already in his second term. But when you're on your first term, you're in a perpetual state of campaigning, not only for you, but for your party. One of the roles of being a president is that you are a official party leader. I need to break all this stuff down. I need to get some notes, but I think I need to do that on another channel. But you are the national figurehead for your party, so you're campaigning not just for yourself, but also for those midterm elections. Everybody's running under you. You like they're going to vote for the Democrat or Republican based on the president. A lot of people see it. It's like very black and white. I like the Republicans. I like the Democrats, and that's how most people think. And a lot of the people are single issue voters. So, yeah, the fact that he was president, if he was politically astute and if he was surrounded with those who were politically astute, he would know that and during your first time as president, you are in a perpetual state of campaigning. So he can't rest on his laurels and say, I'm already president. That's not how it works. But anyway, yeah, I think I need to do a second channel on politics because that is what I went to school for. It is boring, but a lot of people don't understand what they call it. They don't understand how sausage is made. They don't understand what goes into it. And if they knew what went into sausage, they probably wouldn't eat it. But yeah, I need to go through that. Um, And that is my forte, but I just know that it's boring to a lot of people. But I'm going to get off here, and I will. I think I'm going to create a second channel very soon. Thank you. Thank y'all for coming here.